good. What's happening in your world? What are you excited about?
1.3 million listing.
I'm sorry?
$1.3 million listing.
$3 million listing. Awesome.
1.3. 1.3.
Great job.
1.3.
Way to go, Eric. Good job. Excellent. And welcome. This is your first mastermind, huh?
Yes.
Oh, welcome. Welcome to the mastermind. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Great. What else? Tell me something good.
I finally got my brother under contract on an off-market property that we found out about from a friend of a friend.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
You kind of have to do detective work these days, right?
Yes. So we put the word out with all our friends and family, and one of our friends came through. So.
Wow, that's great. Congratulations. Exciting.
Thanks.
Good stuff. What else?
I got my license a week ago.
Welcome, Sam. Congratulations. Way to go, man. Good job. Who else? Who else wants to share?
I'm taking my office back after being gone for the year of COVID. I'm back in the office.
Well, there you go. Welcome back. The office just got happier and more beautiful. No question.
Oh, thank you.
That's great. Well, just like if people are coming back and more people are being vaccinated, more people are thinking about selling their houses too. They're less afraid. So the numbers, I believe, are going to start increasing. And there's a lot of people that are interested in selling that are still waiting around. It's our job to find them. Right? So what are you guys doing to get listings?
Door knocking.
Door knocking. Awesome.
Telephone.
That's great. Good. What else? That'll create opportunities. No doubt about it. The more you meet people face to face will definitely create opportunities.
Posting on Facebook.
Posting on Facebook. That's great. What kind of posting on Facebook are you talking about, Sandra?
I put something up about the Keller Williams mortgage refinancing deal that they have going on.
Great. That's wonderful. Things like that, real estate information. Some of the materials that we'll share today are things you can post that will make you the expert in your among your friends in your database that will help spur conversations on with your database and people that are your friends and help get you opportunities. Good. What else? Anybody else doing interesting things to get inventory?
I use a number. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I use a number of groups that supply me leads where I pay them a fee on success. And that's been very good for me.
Great. Good. Anybody else?
Hi, Gary. This is Queen.
Hi, Queen.
Hi.
How are you?
The golden letters that we talk about in our morning huddle with Sandy. I sent out about 20 and I did get a reply back from one. So yeah, so I'm excited that I got a response back and we conversated. He wants to fix up something. However, I'm going to meet with him tonight and just go over some comps and just get him to sign the contract. Oh, not the contract, the paperwork.
So you got one response from 20. That's great. Congratulations. Are you going to send more?
Oh my God, I already started sending some more. So yeah, I have like 3 letters and I'm sending them to my neighborhood, around my my other properties that I did sell, and just neighborhoods that I want to farm.
Great, good stuff. Are you guys, let me just ask you a question. Are you familiar with some of the proposed tax law changes that are coming out in the near future?
No, I've heard from my CPA they're not good, but I don't know the specifics.
Okay, well, I'll share with you a few. Tamara, can you post that just out of curiosity? Because and first of all, whenever you're talking about proposed tax changes, number one, always have somebody check with their tax advisor.
Are we
First,
talking about this, Gary?
I'm talking about that camera. That's what I'm talking about. This is the plan. We don't know whether it's going to pass. We don't know how it's going to pass. But I want you to understand what the impact of this could be and what the listing opportunity potential is for this. You have an opportunity to provide a great service potentially. But again, always refer people to their tax advisor to see how it might impact them, number one, or number two, to verify that this is what's potentially being proposed. First of all, 1031 in-kind exchanges. They want to get rid of it. Do you know what an exchange, you know what a 1031 exchange is?
Deferred,
you know what it does?
deferring the equity in the property.
I'm sorry?
Deferring the equity, or not the equity, deferring the appreciation in the property, tax liability in the property.
Yes, so it means that the money you would normally have to pay in taxes from selling a property, you can use that money as purchasing power toward your next purchase. Now, there's rules you have to follow to do that, but it's like real life monopoly. 4 greenhouses becomes 1 red hotel. Okay, 12% of real estate transactions in the country last year were 1031 exchanges.
Wow. Did you say 12%?
Well, that's what I read. Again, what you read, you don't know what, whether it's, I didn't verify that. I just read that. Okay, so.
Hey, Gary,
Yes.
I'd like to make a comment on that. It's Judy Post.
As you
I actually, I've just sold a couple of properties using a 1031 exchange. I mean,
Right.
it is very effective. And I even, it was in October of last year, but I sold a property that I've owned since 1997. Okay. And I sold it. I asked my, my accountant what the tax liability would have been, and it would have been $74,000 would have been my tax liability on a $200,000 profit. Okay. So I took my $200,000 profit and I bought another rental property that I now own free and clear. And I tell you what, is so empowering. It is so awesome. So I'm like on the bandwagon telling people about it.
Well, yes, it's definitely a blessing, and it's definitely a great opportunity and a great opportunity to increase wealth for your databases, for you as well, but also for your databases. But, if this goes away, do you think this would be something that your investor clients or people that were thinking about investing in real estate or people that already own properties should know about?
That's very scary to think it might go away.
Well, the point is, yes, but I'm not worried about that necessarily. What I'm focused on is helping the people that want to do an exchange know they might not be able to do it next year.
Yeah, it's going to get business for you.
You follow
Definitely.
what I'm saying? I would want them to verify that this is what is being proposed. I don't want to be responsible for the decision to take action, but the point is this is a definite reason to call anybody and everybody that you know that has investment real estate property, including for rent by owners.
Great idea. Love it.
So 1031 exchange might go bye-bye. Okay. So that eliminates the opportunity, if it does go bye-bye, to use the money you would be paying in taxes as purchasing power toward the property that you want to buy. Okay. Now the other thing is the capital gains they're predicting are going to go up by almost 20%. Okay. Now, what does that mean? So say you have a client that's an investor that has, 2 or 3 or 4 properties, or even one, that's the profit on it is going to be a couple $100,000. The difference on a couple $100,000 by that 20% is 40,000 more in taxes. Right now they pay 40. Next year they might pay 80,000 in taxes. And if they have 4 or 5 properties and it amounts to $500,000, that's now it's 40%. It's 200,000 in taxes. They can't use the 1031 exchange to defer those taxes any longer. So that's just going to be a tax hit that they're going to have. So, and also for your investors, it's a great opportunity for people that have Rental properties, they don't want anymore. They want to get rid of. This is the year to get rid of them. Where the capital gains is only 20%. If it goes up to 40%, you're going to take a significantly higher hit. We don't know what's going to happen, but we don't know what's going to happen with lobbies, and I'm sure NAR has a lot to say with it. But the way it's set up right now, that could potentially happen, and it's a great opportunity to call anybody that's thinking of that has a rental property that's thinking about that. Even if they're not thinking about selling, you want to let them know, given these circumstances, I'm just letting you know as a service to you. Would it be in your best interest to sell? Would it be in your best interest to do a 1031 exchange and use your profits in those property now to upgrade to a better property? You follow what I'm saying? So what I'm saying is now you have a new resource because of proposed tax law changes to get more inventory. I guarantee you, if you didn't know about this, a lot of agents don't know about this. And most people you're not going to have a lot of competition in this arena. Does that make sense? Anybody have any thoughts, comments?
Well, I was just thinking that, even if the market goes up, say 10% next year, if this passes, you could be losing another 10%, even though it went up 10% because of a 20% increase in tax.
Right. So there's a window of opportunity for people to use their 1031 exchanges if they've used it before, or if they want to use it, if it's to their benefit to do it right. There's an opportunity for them to take action now, upgrade their portfolio, and take action now, and save. You could save them a lot of money and a lot of aggravation. The reason for the proposed change is because we're the reason is so they can get revenue. The government can get revenue, and this is one of the areas that they're looking to gain revenue, because they've been printing money for the last little while. The other thing they're doing is they're talking about stepping up the basis on inheritance. So say your family had a property that you had for 30 years, and the way the tax law is now, and again, I'm not a tax expert, and refer everybody to talk to a tax expert, but the way the law is now, if you inherit a property, it's the value that is at right now is right now, okay? But the way the step up law reads is if you inherit a property, you have to go back to when it was originally purchased. And if it was purchased at 100,000 and now it's worth 500,000, you have a $400,000 tax liability. That's an estate tax. Okay, so that's how these are real estate changes that can impact the market, but it also creates opportunities for you to serve your clients at a higher level. And it's always a benefit to know numbers and understand taxes, not to give tax advice, but to give people fair warning to check with their advisor to see how it impacts them. Because we know nothing about our clients' tax situation, but their tax advisors do. And giving them a heads up about this that could save them money might get you opportunities to have clients for life, or deepen a relationship that you already have, or start one that you didn't have. Does that make sense?
Gary, somebody was asking about where we got the image. That was on the news, wasn't it?
I believe it was a capture from a news program that I'm not sure. Okay, but you can Google Biden's proposed tax changes and how it affects real estate, and read up on it by yourself. And the numbers I'm seeing, I talked to our tax advisor, and he says yes, they're projecting, but he doesn't know what the lobbies are going to do, the impact of it's going to be, and all you can do is guess, but my feelings are, one party's got pretty much control of all branches of government right now. If they want to push something through, they probably have the ability to do that, although we don't know that, so it's not to be alarming, it's just to have people do their research, and then if there is an opportunity for them to sell it, what better opportunity right now than the best sellers market we've ever been in history, for somebody that has properties that they want to liquidate, or properties that they want to 1031 exchange for another type of investment property, that they can do that. But we don't, when it passes, we don't know how long whether it's gonna when it's gonna go into effect. So we don't know if it's gonna pass this year or next year, and when it would go into effect. So we have from right now with this proposal, the knowledge of it to inform our potential clients and let them do their research and then find out if it's in their best interest to liquidate their investment property or build up their real estate portfolio and find better properties. I know we had a couple of properties that were, not great rental properties a number of years ago before the first boom, and it was a perfect time for us to sell it. I mean, if you have properties that would be a tough sell in a buyer's market, now's the time to sell them. We had a property that wasn't in a great location. We had another property that backed up to a main road that we accumulated through the years, and they were good rental properties, but we got to the point where we didn't want them anymore. And when the market got hot, it was a great time to liquidate those assets. Does that make sense? All right. What else? Well, the reason for the proposed change is to generate more income for the government. I mean, with all the stimulus money going out and everything that happened with COVID, this is one of the ways to help pay for it. And that's one of the ways that they're looking to do that. And there it is. That's the big three. And it's something to be aware of and to watch out for, and to make sure you're.
Oh, I hope we don't lose Gary because I can't teach this class. Anybody want to raise their hand to teach the class? Hey, G-Man. I think Gary's frozen.
Find your client to,
oh,
everybody there?
Gary, can you hear us? You were frozen for a little bit. I was scared I was going to have to tap dance.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, you hear me? Can you hear me now?
We can.
Okay, great. Okay, anybody got any thoughts, any ahas, any other things any other ways you're going about getting listings? That's why I asked the question, because I wanted to give you another opportunity to serve your clients and potentially get listing inventory.
Gary, I do have a question. Is NAR tackling this issue at all with these proposed?
I'm sure they will. I mean, that's what we have our pack for, right? But I don't know I know they're very powerful, but I don't know how powerful they are. And I don't know whether one of these things, two of these things, or all these proposals will pass. But it's something for you to keep an eye out on and for you to do your own research. It's still a great time to acquire real estate investment property. I think it's always going to be a great time. You just don't have the incentives that the government gave if these go away. But for your people that already are investors, it's a great time to upgrade their portfolio, get rid of troubled properties, and also use the 1031 exchange for as long as they can. If they have, especially if they're higher end, because obviously the higher end, the higher the tax implications. You're sitting on a couple of $1 million in real estate. All of a sudden, 40% of it goes bye-bye when you dispose of it, right? Which means that later on, if these tax proposals happen, people in the higher end will be less likely to want to sell them. Unless there's a way to figure out a tax advantage of some kind. Taxes make a difference to investors. There's no doubt about it. Okay. What else?
We've been using something called the golden letter to find new listers.
From the Pivot group?
Mm-hmm.
How's it working? I know it's working well for a lot of people from what I understand.
It's working really well. And when we transfer it to golden text and text that out, the amount of responses we get from the touches is just hard to keep up with. So we have to actually limit the amount of people that we send it out to every week. Otherwise, we end up getting 50 texts a day.
That's exciting.
Yeah, it is. And mostly, some of them are like stop or, who is this? Because it's coming from our Twilio account. But a lot of times it's just listings.
Right. Can somebody provide a copy of that? I know I have it. I don't have it right here, but if somebody can provide it for the group, not everybody has a copy of it, right?
Yeah, yeah, and it's really simple. It's just hi, how are you doing? We have some buyers that are interested in buying your property or a house just like yours. Are you interested in selling?
Right, right. So have you tracked any numbers as far as the return that you're getting, Derek?
We have. It was. I know Jake has those numbers. I'm Jake Yancarelli's assistant.
Okay.
I know he has the numbers readily available. He'll probably be happy to share those later.
Wonderful. That's great. That's great.
Where are
Awesome.
you guys getting the phone numbers for the people contacting?
Through title. So title can run numbers for you.
Great. Awesome.
Yeah.
We ask how can we when we're in a shifting market like this, right? We don't figure out, we don't try to think about all the reasons why we can't do things. We ask how can we? We figure out how we can. Does that make sense? Good stuff. What else? Anybody else? Anybody else have any
Gary?
ahas they want to? Yes.
Hi, this is Bobby from
Hey, Bobby.
the Clearwater Market Center.
Yeah.
Ironically, this morning on our SOS call, we're kind of fishing upstream, predicting, in a year or two from now, who's going to be the client that's doing more business, right? If we're borrowing buyers and sellers from the future. And we kind of were starting to mastermind around non-occupant homeowners,
right.
Being that many of them, like what your example was, might have bought in the 80s or the early 90s and have just been crushing the equity there and the rents, and the houses are probably close to having no mortgage, but they're probably not wanting to recycle back into this, but they're also seeing how amazing the retail market is, so they would be looking to sell. But the caveat was, if we can find them now, I guess our future, especially with this tax law coming into place and not knowing what's going to happen with interest rates, we can kind of use sellers who want to sell their second or third properties they've been renting out for 20, 30 years to sell out to new and up and coming investors who will be our future clients, where we're doing flips to kind of thrive and shift through the market. And we didn't even know about these or talk about the tax stuff that you talked about. So that actually is, we're going to tomorrow, hopefully, or Monday, create a investor's golden letter and talk about the tax implications to kind of maybe speed up their plans if they're thinking of doing it later than sooner. So that was a great aha.
Well, great. I mean, and the other thing is just think about capital gains right now, for properties that, for married couples, you have a $500,000 once in a lifetime exclusion, right? Tax rates, right? Everybody knows about that, right? For single parties, it's 250,000. For married couples, it's 500,000. Not that a lot of people build that kind of equity up, but in the higher end, that equity can be built up to that possibility. So
and
now,
it's important to port it over if you buy another one, right?
Well, yes, it gets carried. It gets carried. But now, for all the profit above 500,000, even for owner occupied properties, if capital gains goes up 20%, the tax liability above 500,000 is now 40% instead of 20%.
That's awesome. That's exactly where we're going to add to that letter. That's really what would maybe get it. If they're thinking about it now anyways, and they just need that catalyst, I mean, that could be it.
Right. Again, anything with any tax information on it, you always have to have the disclaimer on there to check with your tax advisor to verify the information, how it would impact. That definitely is a must. That must be on those. But yeah, good.
Awesome. Thank you.
Our pleasure. What else? Tell me something good or give me an aha, and then we'll jump in with more material.
Hey, Gary, Jake here.
Hi, Jake.
I was just talking with Howard, I don't know, a minute ago, and we were talking about leadership and opportunities within Keller Williams. And, one of the things that I've been thinking a lot about and talking with our coach about is just, and as I'm talking to other agents, is how much opportunity we actually have as being agent partners with Keller Williams. And, we always hear the and not or, and it really resonates, to changing the lives of the people who we know, and just taking that energy and and being able to convert that into just conversations that are bettering people. And I think a lot of, what we've been focused on, just my family and as we're interacting with just people in general, is having that mindset of opportunity and growth. And the more we can think about it from that perspective, I think the more we grow. And so it was just a big aha that I had today of that. I don't know anywhere else that I could experience that in any other industry in any capacity beyond what I've been able to learn. And I came from the outdoor education world and trip leading and backcountry work and high ropes course facilitation. And there's a lot of that conversation there, but never to the extent of actually making a big impact, a massive impact on my life and other people's lives.
Yeah, well, you immerse yourself into learning what the company teaches. It's not about either or, it's about both and.
Right.
Right. And it's about serving people and helping people and helping them hit their goals and hit their dreams, right? That's what it's all about. Like, and that's the premise from which Nikki and I joined, because we were being nourished education-wise from the very beginning, to the point where it impacted how we raised our kids and how we grew as people, and how we treated our family and how we treated everybody. There's only so much gain when you make it all about yourself. And then when you make it all about yourself, there's the reward is fleeting, because there's always what next. But when you succeed through people and help other people grow to the highest levels, then that's fulfillment. That's the difference between success and significance. The difference between success and fulfillment. And that's why the opportunity map is so powerful with KW, because it's all about passing it forward. It's all about sharing what you learned in order to grow to the next level. We were in a network called the Howard Brinton Network before we even joined KW. But if it was the Howard Brinton Network where we met Jimmy and Linda McKissick, Mary and Joe Harker, Tony DeSello and Diana Kokoska. And Howard Brinton's network was all about sharing everything that you, or sharing things that are working for you that you've learned to help others grow in their real estate practice. We always said, wouldn't it be great if we could put together a company that thought the way we all thought when we were in Howard's events and learning it from Howard's materials. Because he interviewed the top people throughout the country every month and would share, and he's a great interviewer. He would extract everything that was important that they were doing and then share it with his network. And then we'd meet 2 or 3 times a year, and everybody was family. Well, what do you know? Jimmy and Lynn McKissick said, well, that's what Gary Keller's doing. I said, get out of here. Because they had just been kicked out of their company. They had just been kicked out of Keller Williams as the #1 agency, Keller Williams, because their broker owner wanted to go join another real estate operation. So she booted him from the company because they would have been major competitors, because they weren't willing to go with the other company that she wanted to be affiliated with. So I didn't believe that Gary Keller was that way until I met him myself. And then we got invited to go to the training and go to all the opportunities. And the opportunity map wasn't as extensive as it is now, 22, 23, 24 years ago. But all it did was keep growing on that foundation, and giving anybody whatever opportunity they could ever want. Whether it's expansion, whether it's, coaching, whether it's teaching, whether it's master faculty, or whatever avenue you want to use to grow and help people, it's there for you. So thanks for bringing that up. By the way, Derek committed you to something.
What's that?
Sharing the numbers as far as your success rate with the golden letter or the golden text.
I'm going to need some time to get that put together.
Okay. Well, the thing is it's working, right? So I appreciate you sharing that. And I know that Pivot Shift, James has been talking about it, and that's one of the things that came from Pivot Shift, right?
Well, one thing I can add to that, my coach is Nicole Zuber, and Nicole and Craig Zuber, who are executive coaches with Keller Williams. They're having their teams that are doing 400 to 1,400 units a year do this. Right. And just to shed some light on it, even those teams aren't doing it. They're not doing it. And then I'm on a call with Gina Rant, and someone chimes in and says, I would have listened to Craig 6 months ago when he said for me to start doing it. And I think I'm going to start doing it now, and Nicole, my coach, is like, go do it. I guess I'm pretty coachable. I just went ahead and did it. And it literally created a firestorm that I couldn't handle the inbound responses. It basically derailed my entire day. And then we ended up, 2 months later, I just signed a listing today from somebody who got the gold text that I sent back in February that said, no, they weren't interested. And then they said, well, wait a minute, maybe I am interested. And then they said, well, what would that look like? Right. And then in bold, Dusty said, what was that? It's like, if your client knew blank, then they would blank, that would cause them to blank. Right. And if my client knew this, and that's where the gold text came in. It sparked their interest to say, okay, now I can answer that question for them. And, I mean, we can't rely on the MLS anymore for listings.
No, that's right. That's the point. And it's our opportunity to go get our unfair share of listings. So yes, everybody should be sending this letter and text if it's working. Just be careful who you're texting.
Gary, it's Jared.
Hey, Jared.
Hey, so I want to reiterate what Jake said, because what it's doing, the text and the letters, it's planting the seed, even to people that aren't, that hear all the news and all this. It's planting the seed. I had several responses that were like, oh, I need to talk it over with my wife or this or that. And yet it starts that conversation with them. And with the letter, I have been having some good wins with that as well. Some responses that they're like, we get tons of mail and postcards from agents, and you're the first one I've called back. And so I want to encourage you guys. Like Jake said, there's teams that are doing massive amounts that aren't doing it at a high level, that I think there's opportunity for all of us.
There you go. I appreciate you guys willing to share it. And it's just a matter of making a choice to use it, because that's what you want. You want a competitive advantage, and people, when they read what you're sending them, to respond to it, not just chuck it, right? And if that's doing that, then it's a winner. It's a winner. And something we need to implement, I think, as soon as possible, if you haven't implemented it yet, right? Good stuff. Thanks for sharing, guys. What else? Anybody have any aha so far today that you'd like to share? A couple of people joined us from a call that they were on before.
Gary, can I say something?
Yes, Katrina.
First of all, I wanted to tell you something good, because I came in a couple minutes late. I paid off my house. That was a huge goal of mine for a long, long time, and I finally did it.
Way to go, girl.
And then enough about me. At the market center, I was talking with a bunch of the agents, and I volunteered to be the one to tell you that they would love it if you would spend more time on the numbers in the mastermind, and also go a little bit slower, because they really value that part of it. And so out of an hour, I think they want the bulk of the time in the number. So I'm relaying the message from several agents.
Awesome. Thank you. I did get that message, by the way. Howard was at the end of an ALC meeting yesterday, and he shared that with me. So I appreciate you letting me know.
Yeah, they just threw me in and said, Katrina will do it. I said, sure, I'll do it.
My pleasure. I'm here for you guys. I want to give you as much as I can, and if you tell me what you want, I'll do my best to get it for you. So no question.
Yeah. So the two unanimous things was spend more time on the numbers and go a little slower in explaining, because some of the newer agents don't quite get, the information behind it, because it's too quick.
Sure. Okay. All right. Got it. Good. All right. Anybody else? Thoughts? Ahas? Okay. Let's go through the materials. Are you interested in 3 keys to becoming wealthy? Is that a topic you want to cover?
Yes.
Okay. Thanks, Jake. Jim Rohn, one of my favorites. A lot of wisdom in this article, so I'm just going to read this to you. A man I knew had an MBA from Harvard and an engineering degree from MIT. Smart guy. When he retired, he started doing what he liked best, teaching college courses in economics and business. But when he taught economics, he also taught personal economics. This is the philosophy that he started his classes with. Underline this, guys. Decide how you want to live now versus how long you want to work. That means if you spend everything you make now, you'll have no choice but to work longer and harder. But if you start investing in your financial future now, you'll have many choices. You can retire early, travel more, continue your career, or start a new career in life later in life. That's your option. Once again, it all comes down to choices. Think tomorrow, today, and live better tomorrow. Here's the next thing to think of when you're planning your future of wealth. Be careful with your credit cards. Selling money is big business. You probably get invitations in the mail to sign up for a new credit card a couple times a month. Having some credit cards is important, especially if you travel. They're safer and easier to track than cash. But be careful. Credit's the easiest way to get into debt. When you buy something with a little piece of plastic, you don't feel the effect until you get the bill. So make sure that whatever you buy, you're still happy with your purchase after you get the bill. Here's another point to remember in becoming financially independent. It's hard to get rich quickly. It's easy to get rich slowly. It doesn't happen overnight. With conservative investments, it takes a while. It takes discipline to keep adding value to your future, a little every month. It takes time to build your fortune and become wealthy. There's a saying about investing: time, not timing. Can't time the market. It takes time. If playing the stock market's what you do, then you know that timing is a whole different ballgame. But for the average person, it's time. A study was done a while back that analyzed stock market investments. The study took two scenarios into consideration. In the first scenario, stocks were bought at the very worst possible time and sold at the very worst possible time. Bought high and sold low. And after 40 years, the average return was around 10%. Scenario one dealt with time. In the second scenario, stocks were analyzed over a 10-year period. Stocks were purchased at the best possible time and sold at the best possible time. After 10 years, the average return was what? About 10%. The second scenario dealt with timing. So timing might not be all it's cracked up to be. Be patient in building your financial independence. It'll come in small steps at a time. It's hard to be patient sometimes, but it's just like achieving your goals. It'll happen one step at a time. What about those situations when patience has nothing to do with becoming wealthy? What about those trust fund babies who are handed their financial independence on a silver platter? They never have to work a day in their lives if that's what they choose. Their first car is a Porsche, their first house is a mansion, their first job is at their father's company. What about those people born rich? Some guy says it isn't fair that I'm working like crazy all day, all week, all month, all my life. It just isn't fair. I'll never have that kind of money. Well, some things aren't fair. Inheriting money might not seem fair, but what does that have to do with you, really? If your dream is to have greater wealth than some people you know, first of all, anything that you can't control should not make a goal. I mean, a goal to be number one someplace, you can't control what anybody else is going to do. You can only control what you're going to do. So making your goal dependent on something else or someone else you got to focus on what you can control. If your dream is to have greater wealth than some people you know, then you'd better start working harder and smarter on your own goals, your own visions, and stop pondering what's fair and what isn't. Start examining what's keeping you back instead of what's keeping them ahead. Focus on yourself and what you're doing and what you're thinking and what you're learning. Start looking at what you're doing. There are plenty of stories and examples and experiences of people who began their careers destitute and had enough resolve to do it until they had more than they ever dreamed of. Study the experiences of others who built their way to the top instead of those born there. And you'll not only reach the top, you'll truly deserve it. Any thoughts? Any ahas? Any comments?
Control what you can control.
That's it.
Stop comparing yourself to other people.
Amen, Hudson. That's right on the money. That's
You
it.
know, and
Especially,
also who
yeah,
you surround yourself with matters, right?
right.
And you know, I listened to there was a guy who came on, did a mastermind call. He's an expansion agent, and he took his call from a RV at like in Alaska. He's been on a 1-year road trip, and he runs a team that sells 300 houses a year. And that's what he's doing with his time, is traveling. And I'm like, that's awesome. And one of the things that he's like, oh, there's a podcast called Choose FI, Choose Financial Independence. And, you know, it's really a lot of that resonates to, you know, it is all about time, and it's not timing. And that's just continuing to surround yourself around people who are going to be able to hear or bring you to the next level.
Yeah. Study well. Be patient with yourself. Building wealth is building the right habits. Just like building your real estate practice is putting the good habits in place and making sure things happen automatically. It's when you stop doing the things that are working that causes disruptions in your own real estate practice. Same thing with building your financial future. You should have an automatic system of putting a certain amount of money away. Okay, we're in the best of times as far as the amount of properties that are selling right now. If you're spending all your money, you're playing a fool's game, because it's not always going to be this way. Okay, one of the things that Dave Ramsey says is, if you live like no one else now, you can live like no one else later. Okay, you don't have to spend everything. Invest in your freedom. I call them freedom chips.
Earl Nightingale says you become what you think about most.
That's right. Exactly, Eric. So you want to think about your opportunities and your dreams and your goals, or do you want to think about your worries and your fears? Right. So focus on what you want and build a plan and incrementally add to that plan, and you will continue to grow. Next is an article. I'm not going to read the whole thing for you. I'm just going to make a point. You can read it. Contentment makes poor men rich. Discontent makes rich men poor. Your level of unhappiness is the difference between what you think you need and what you have. And it talks about 4 different parts of the world that have high life expectancies. Okinawa is the highest. And this is an article basically about Coach Wooden. If you scroll down to the bottom, you'll see Coach Wooden, who was the most successful college basketball coach in history and a leadership guru. John Maxwell talked about interviewing Coach Wooden, how Wooden impacted his life in a significant way. Coach felt that the secret to a long life was peace of mind, contentment. He once commented, material possessions can't bring contentment, peace of mind, happiness, or true success. Don't compare yourself to somebody else, especially materially. You can learn from other people, just don't, in an unhealthy way, compare yourself to other people. Next article, why you should give gratitude freely without expecting it in return. Another great article that you guys can read. It basically talks about the impact of gratitude and stop looking for the approval and gratitude of others as your reason to do good. Even if no one ever says thank you, do for others as your heart dictates from spirit, which is rooted in the faster energy of love, kindness, and connectedness to all. And don't expect gratitude for your kindness. When we expect gratitude, we destroy the kindness and actually prevent the person we are helping from enjoying the feeling of gratitude. Gratitude is the recognition that you have been the beneficiary of someone else's kindness. Indebtedness is the recognition that because of that kindness, you now owe something to that person and ought to pay it back. Coach Wooden helped me countless times over the years and never made me feel like I owed him one. In his book, The Wisdom of Wooden, My Century on and Off the Court, Coach summed it up this way. In life, there are few goals more worthwhile and satisfying than helping others. Teachers, coaches, mentors, and leaders had that wonderful opportunity. It's an opportunity exceeded only by that of being a parent. All are based on giving, not the material things, but rather love, support, knowledge, guidance, kindness, discipline, and even wisdom, such as my father and mother offered my brothers and me. Ralph Waldo Emerson said it well. Material things are not gifts, but apologies for gifts. The only true gift is a portion of thyself. What he didn't say is that it's also the most joyous and rewarding gift to give. So does that hit home or have any specific meaning to anybody?
That's just beautiful. I think that is the way every one of us should live our lives, not expecting recognition, to just do things and just do it from the goodness of your heart. And I think the world could be a much better place if we all could abide by that.
Yeah, just reading it kind of gives you peace, doesn't it?
Why can't we be friends?
Yeah. 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 It's interesting. If you convey that kind of a feeling on a listing appointment, you think you'll get that listing? If you have that kind of energy?
Every time.
Yeah, I think so. I think people, you heard Zig Ziglar say, you care about people and it comes back to you. If you make them think there's a number, it's not going to come back to you. I've been in both worlds. I've thought both ways. Let me share something with you. It works better when you're there for them, not for you.
And they can tell if that's genuine.
Right.
And they know it. And they'll reiterate that to you and say, we trust you and we know that you're there for us.
Yeah.
And versus, what are you trying to sell me?
Same thing with agents in recruiting. It's the same conversation. It's all about what they need and how we can help them. It's all about your clients' needs and how we can help them. List your way to success, list your buyer's way to success. The most important part of the consultation is uncovering their needs and helping them prioritize them.
When people talk about those words all the time, one of the things that I've been doing when I'm trying to get a listing is I ask them, the couple, how they met, or I ask him what he does for a living, and then I ask him to tell me about it, and it causes no other realtors ask that.
Right.
People like to talk about themselves.
Well, that's their favorite subject, isn't it?
Yeah, it's number one, then family.
Right. And that's how you move conversations forward instead of having them stop suddenly and wonder why it stopped.
When the guy's got 6 or 7 realtors and only one of them asked how the couple met, and then they start talking about this really cool story and how this happened, and all of a sudden, that's our realtor. Bingo.
Right. Right, because you made them feel good. People remember how people make them feel.
Yeah.
Right. And then then after you built that, you showed them by how you shared the data and how you presented the facts about what's going on in the market that you're good at what you do also. But there's 3 things everybody's asking themselves every time you're in a conversation with them as far as listing or buyer. Number 1, do they care about me? Number 2, can I trust them? Number 3, are they good at what they do? You get yes answers to those 3 questions and you're moving forward. And you're moving them to the same side of the table as you. And that's what it's all about, is moving them to the same side of the table as you, not thinking that you're on the opposite side of the table, that you're trying to take something from them. You're there to enhance their life. You're there to help them accomplish their goals. And if their goals aren't accomplishable, to be honest with them and let them know what is achievable. And then let them make the decision about whether they want to move forward or not. Does that make sense?
Very good.
Same thing with agents. We're all the same. We want to be appreciated. We want to be respected. We want to, if we're grateful to them for something, we want to catch people doing something well and show them gratitude. How can you show gratitude? Send them handwritten personal notes. Brian Buffini made a living at it. Many, many agents made a living at it. And many, many people made a living at it. Express and show appreciation. That's genuine. Okay. Next. 82,338 great reasons to buy a home today. Wow. That's pretty cool, isn't it? Where'd they get that from? Well, they calculated the projected appreciation from experts over the next 5 years, based it on a $350,000 home. And they calculated that if you bought a house in January of 2021 at 350, at the predicted rates of appreciation, your house would be worth $82,338 more in 5 years. Homeowners are going to make a substantial amount of equity in the next 5 years. If you're ready to buy a home, let's connect so you can enjoy this great benefit as well. Okay, so great. Trying to get a buyer off the fence. How can an article like this help you get a seller to list their house?
Well, if they're planning to upgrade into another house, maybe they're in a 2-bedroom and they want to move into a 4-bedroom. How much more is that 4-bedroom going to be in the next couple of years if you decide to wait a couple of years before you buy it? Yes, your 2-bedroom will increase in value as well, but just not as much as the 4-bedroom house does.
Love you, Donna. Right on the money.
Thank you.
Exactly. They're losing money every day by waiting if they're a move-up buyer. If they're moving from 200 to 500, whatever the case may be, or 500 to 750, or 750 to $1.2 million, they're losing money every day by waiting. Does that make sense? How? Like you just said, if the markets just apply those percentages to whatever price range you want, and that's how you can get a listing from that. Okay, the next article, I'm gonna go through this because I want to honor what the request was and get to the numbers, and I'm gonna let you read these articles. But this article talks about don't be fooled by remarkable real estate headlines. I want you to understand something. The newspapers are going to be talking about how much the market's gone up and how much there's more business this year than there was last year. Last year's was a blip because of COVID. Okay, so you're going to look at year-over-year numbers in March, April, May, and for sure this year should be a lot better than last year. Does that make sense? So don't rest too much on your laurels, because what we got to watch out for is in July and August and the third and fourth quarters last year, a lot of that business was from business that wasn't done in the second quarter. So don't get too up if we're kicking butt in the second quarter, but don't get too down if we're not quite as high in the third and fourth quarters. But we can be, is my point. All right. We're going to find out in just a little bit that, April was the best April in history as far as number of transactions in all 3 counties. Okay. The main point is the real estate market's back to normal. This second quarter is going to be more of a normal second quarter. Okay. Next, you're hearing rumors about us being in a bubble. No, it's not a bubble. It's simply a lack of supply. And that's what our NAR expert says. Okay. The next article talks about patience is the key in buying a home this year. But it also talks about why there's a shortfall of properties. The reason there's a shortfall of properties that they talk about, the biggest significant reason is look at the graph a little bit lower, and you'll see new housing starts by decade, or single family housing units completed by decade. 2000 to 2010, that crazy shift that happened caused builders to get very leery. Okay, so this is one of the main reasons why the supply is so low. The number of newly built homes is disproportionately lower than the rate of household formation, according to the Census Bureau. If you look on the next page, and you guys can read this article yourself. The good news is the March figure of 1.74 million housing starts is the highest in 14 years this year. Both single family units and multifamily units ramped up after 13 straight years of underproduction, the chief cause for today's inventory shortage. This construction boom needs to last for at least 3 years to make up for the past shortfall. As trade-up buyers purchase newly constructed homes, their prior homes will show up in MLSs and hence more choices for consumers. Housing starts and to housing completion could be 4 to 8 months, so be patient with the improvement to inventory. In the meantime, construction workers deserve cheers. If you're planning to buy this year, the key to success will be patience given today's low inventory environment. Let's connect today to talk about more what's happening in our area. I love this KCM blog because it talks about you, it supports you, it creates urgency in buyers and sellers and drives them to you. The main thing is they're predicting inventory to go up. They also predict inventory to go up because of more people being vaccinated and more people interested in selling their homes. But how can you get listings from an article like this? The message to you is make sure you know about new construction. We've talked about this before. With new construction, you can get listings from people that are building new homes. Does that make sense? So find the buyers a house and then list their property. And there's also inventory homes that are available.
Gary,
right?
Can I chime in on that, on what you just said there?
Yep.
So we had a seller, and again, this goes back to if my client knew blank, then they would blank, which would cause them to blank. And we had a seller who, she had a new home construction that's not due until the end of August. And because we were able to work it backwards and help her see a path to be able to sell her house, cash it out, and then rent it back. For right now, we got a lease up until the end of October for no cost to her to live in her house until her new home construction is completed. She can cash it out. She can then use those funds to buy the new house that she's already under contract on, which she wouldn't have been able to. And she's living for free until her house is done.
Right.
And, that, because of that, I mean, that story is, we're getting more listings because of that, just because of that story. And I'm not hearing a lot of other realtors doing that right now.
Well, it solves the problem of, where do I go? Right? Where do I go? What do I do if people don't want to move twice? And it's such a strong seller's market that the seller can find a buyer that really wants to buy the house that'll wait for them in a lot of situations. It's just
and we're still $25,000 above asking price with a cash buyer who's willing to let them stay there for 5 months for nothing.
There is no better time in history that the seller can dictate the terms that they want, even what seems to be the most unreasonable. That's how much of a driver's position that they're in right now.
Yeah,
so
everything is possible. Everything is possible.
Right, so you just have to present it and find out who will do it, who is willing to do it. Does that make sense? Good stuff. Thanks for sharing that, Jake. Next, our interest rate expected to rise over the next year. Yes. And there you can see the experts. Okay. Where was bottom? 2.5? Right? Last year was it about 2.5? Where's it at now? Right around 3. The average of the experts are predicting, 3.5, about 3.5, 3.6, 3.7 by the second quarter of next year. Okay, so what happens every time the interest rate goes up 1%?
Buying
power,
power goes down.
Right, buying power drops and they qualify for 10% less of a mortgage. Every 1% increase in interest rate dropped the buyer's ability to qualify by 10%. So if they can qualify for 300,000 at 2.5, at 3.5 they can qualify for 2.7. Does that make sense? So while values are going up and interest rates are going up, they're losing their buying power. Okay, so if interest rates continue to go up, more inventory will start to linger on the market. Buyers will get more choices. It won't be as intense of a seller's market. But I believe interest rates would have to go up significantly to even move it to a balanced market. And we'll see how that plays out.
Can you say that one more time? If the interest rate goes up by 1%?
If interest rates move up, it's also in the shift book, but if interest rates move up by 1%, the buyer qualifies for 10% less of a mortgage. So if they could qualify for 300,000 at 2.5, the interest rate goes up to 3.5, qualify for 270.
Got it.
Their payment also goes up by 10%.
That's right. Yes. So and what happened a couple of years ago, when you look at the data, interest, a couple of years ago at the end of the year, inventory was lingering on the market, and we had the highest amount of inventory in the last 4 or 5 years. People were complaining that nothing was selling like it used to, and I think that's because interest rates went up to about 5%. When interest rates went up to 5%, houses stayed on the market. Okay. So we're not there yet by any means, but that's something to watch for. You want to look, see where interest rates are going, and we look at the inventory every month. I'll kind of alert you. One of the things that's interesting is in all 3 counties for the first time in months, inventory went up from March to April. We were hitting new record lows every month. Remember, new record lows in active listings. Well, the inventory is still low, and the increase wasn't significant, but inventory went up a little bit, and we'll see that in a little bit. Next, your house could be the oasis in the inventory desert. Look at the graph. This is what I want you to see. Year over year, the active inventory levels. I mean, in March, the active inventory is 900,000. There are more realtors than there are homes on the market. That's a true statement. Okay. So basically, a house that goes on the market now, and I'll know this, it's basically sold. It's an amazing situation to have. So it's the best situation for sellers ever. Okay. And then the next article is great. I think you should digest it and read it and look at the graphs. But these are 3 graphs that's showing why you should sell your house now. Number 1, inventory. Look at it, it's the lowest level in history, up a little bit from March. Okay. The small uptick in inventory shows sellers are beginning to re-enter the market. So selling your house now enables you to take advantage of buyer demand and get the most attention for your house before more listings come to the market later this year. So even though you're in a market where it's completely a seller's market, you have to let sellers know when you're on a listing appointment that there will be more competition coming on the market later. And that's why you have an opportunity right now. You got to kind of create a sense of urgency. How much inventory is going to be coming on the market? We can't predict that. But experts are saying that with the vaccines being more plentiful and more people being vaccinated, sellers' alarms are down, and there's a more interest in selling houses. So a lot of people didn't put their house on the market and haven't yet because of that, and more will. Okay. And then if you tell them about the tax situation, that might help get you more listing inventory too, especially to investors that hold rental properties. Frequent bidding wars. Okay. 4.8 offers an average per house. I know a lot of you guys are getting a lot more than that. That's because our month supply of inventory is a lot less than the nation's. The nation's average month supply of inventory is 2.1. Ours is below 1. And days on market. Okay, look at that days on market graph. Is it the lowest ever in the sample that they've used? 18 days in March was the average days on the market for a property. All I'm saying to you guys is don't get used to it. Some of you that have just started in real estate or been in real estate, you never really experienced the buyer's market. You take a listing, goes under contract in 2 weeks, you get paid in 6 weeks. That's the fastest cash flow cycle that you're ever going to experience. I grew up in a buyer's market. We used to carry 70, 80, 100 listings and had to deal with sellers calling you every week, asking you why their house didn't sell. It's a whole different experience. So I just want you to understand it's important for you to make hay while the sun shines and not spend all your money. Put money in the bank so that you can handle shifts if they do happen. Okay. Right now, you don't have to service a seller. All you got to do is put a sign in the yard. and then deal with all the multiple offers that are coming in. That takes skill. Okay. But to be honest with you, it's not going to happen that way forever. Okay. So bottom line, if you're considering selling your house, don't wait for more competition to pop up in your neighborhood. Let's connect today to explore the benefits of selling your house now before more homes come on the market. This also, right above it, the results of a realtor survey.com survey showed that 1 in 10 homeowners plan to sell this year. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm on the next article, Tamara. Sorry. Here we go. Just the bottom section here. 1 in 10 homeowners plan to sell this year. 63% of those looking to list in the next 6 months. Just as encouraging, close to 2/3 of sellers plan to sell their homes at prices under $350,000, which would offer a tremendous boost to affordable housing for first-time homebuyers. That's all great news, but what's the point? A lot of people have given up on trying to get listings, and they're working for every listing agent in town, because all they're doing is showing houses to buyers. I'm not saying not to work with buyers. What I'm saying is don't not try to get listings. Okay, make that part of your arsenal. It's important that you keep soliciting and trying to help sellers get their properties. Buyers are sellers, that's true, but find more ways, like we talked about earlier. Call for rent by owners. Let them know the 1031 exchange might be going bye-bye and capital gains might be going up by 20%. Have conversations about that, learn about that, and share that data with them and let them know, make decisions that's best for them. Okay? Next, ready for the data? Okay, what I've done is I started doing this for you guys, I don't know, a lot of years ago. Basically, when distressed property was about 40% of our market, and we used to track what's going on with REOs and short sales, and now REOs and short sales are basically nothing, not really a part of our business at all. You know, I remember in Hillsborough County, REOs were over 900 active listings at one point, and now they're between 10 and 20. In Pinellas, we only had 9 active listings that are bank foreclosures, and in April, 13 of them sold. The 1.11 means that those 13 that sold at 111% of list price. 111% of list price means that it sold for more than the asking price on average by 11%. The absorption rate is the percentage of inventory that got absorbed, in other words, sold off the market. And again, we had more solds than actives. So that means it's an above 100% absorption rate, 144.4% absorption rate, which means that it's less than a 1 month supply of inventory. There's only a 0.7 month supply of inventory for REOs in the marketplace in Pinellas County right now, which makes it an extremely strong seller's market. Okay. Now, just to reiterate, most of you know what it is, but for new agents, month supply of inventory is supply and demand. It has nothing to do with how long it takes to sell a house. It has everything to do with, if it's, it basically is how many months will it take for, if no new houses come on the market, for us to have no inventory. All right. So if you have a 0 to 5 month supply of inventory, that's considered a seller's market according to NAR, National Association of Realtors. A 5 to 7 month supply of inventory is considered a balanced or normal market. Okay. A 7 month or greater supply of inventory is considered a buyer's market. Okay. So what does that mean? What does a seller's market mean and a buyer's market mean? Basically, if there's less supply, there's less properties for buyers to choose from. Sellers have the upper hand in negotiations. And the closer the number is to 0, the stronger and more extreme the seller's market is. Now, to 7 or greater, sellers have to compete for buyers because buyers have more options and choices when there's a lot of competition. It makes sense, right? So buyers are more in the driver's seat negotiating wise. Does that make sense?
Gary,
yeah.
I've never seen a 2-week absorption rate in our market. Have you?
No, it's the most unbelievable thing I've ever seen in my life. I've never seen so consistently an absorption rate where more properties are selling every month than are active. Less than a 1 month supply. It's crazy, you know. And you're going to find out later in just a few minutes that even in non-distressed, the average list to sales price ratio in all 3 counties was 100%. The average list to sales price ratio in all 3 counties was 100%. That's never been done before. This is the first time. We've had it 98, 99, but never 100%. Okay. So next we look at short sales. Again, virtually non-existent in Pinellas County. Only 3 actives, but 4 sold. They sold at 106% of list price, or 6% above list price on average. Now, they took 174 days to get from contract to closing. And that was the reason I keep tracking that, is because if I just like to have it now, but short sales, the problem with short sales is the mortgage is worth more than the house. So the bank gets to decide what price they will accept. Even though the seller might have signed a contract for a specific price and the buyer agreed to that price, the bank can come in, however much time it takes them, and let the buyer know, look, we don't feel it's worth 100,000. We feel it's worth 120. You still want to buy it. And that could take 60, 90, 120, 150 days to get that information. And that's the downside of a buyer having a contract on a short sale property. Okay. But even in short sales, there's less than a 1 month supply in Pinellas County. Here we go. Pinellas County, non-distressed, where we all function. Okay, so inventory is up from March to April by about 18 listings, from 1371 to 1389. But look at how far inventory dropped year over year. 4386 down to 1389. That's almost 3,000 fewer listings, almost 70% less active inventory. But in the same month that we have 68.3% less inventory, we had 80% more sales. 2,590 closings in Pinellas County, as opposed to 1,436. That's 1,154 more sales in the same month that there were 3,000 fewer listings. Mind-boggling. And again, the average list to sales price ratio is 1. That means 100%. The highest above list price that a property sold in April was 45% above list price. The absorption rate was 186.5%, or a half month supply of inventory. Amazing. Does anybody have any questions on that? Or?
I do. Gary, it's Melanie. That number at the top is kind of blowing my mind. And well, it is that we're 3,000 listings fewer. And I know we just talked about a ton of stuff about getting listings and that. What, in your experience, like, where does that really leave this market, specifically our area, right? I
wouldn't get alarmed by that, because it's not like there's not people listing their properties. On the next graph, the next page that we look at, we're going to see that there's more contract pendings than there are active listings. So it's not that people aren't listing their properties or selling their properties. This is the amount that are staying active.
Okay. Well, and I guess that speaks to the time on market, which is, shrunk to basically 3 or 4 days in our market.
That's it. That's it. But, on the next page, if we look at the next page, you'll see what I'm talking about. I started tracking this when I saw where the contract pending numbers are. You look, okay, there's 1,413 active listings up from March. Contract pendings are 3,151. There's more than twice as many contracts pending as there are active listings. So my point is don't not search pending listings as potential for your buyers. And use the criteria that you're searching for your buyers for active listings. Search pendings also, because deals fall apart. You follow what I'm saying? So you want to also looking for possibilities. Call listing agents that have contracts on properties. Ask them how solid it is, and are they looking for, is it in danger of falling out? I think you'll find opportunities that way. All right. Besides checking expireds and FSBOs also, you want to check, expireds and withdrawns in the MLS. When you're plugging in the MLS, your search criteria for a buyer, don't just search actives. Search contract pendings, search expireds, search withdrawns. And then you're checking the whole market to see what's possible.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And I just started tracking that because I wanted to see how far, how many more pendings were than actives. You'll see that numbers, that's the lowest. It's twice as much in Pinellas, but in Pasco and Hillsborough, it's even more than twice. It's like 3 and 4 times. So let's get to Pasco. Again, foreclosures, REOs, non-existent, only 8 active, 15 sold, and they sold at 99% of list price. A half month supply of inventory. Again, very intense seller's market, which means the sellers are in the driver's seat and the sellers dictate the terms. Short sales in Pasco, 4 actives, 7 sold. They sold at an average of full price, and they only took 93 days to get from contract to closing. How did I get 93 days? I subtract the days to close, 185. I subtract the days to contract minus the days to close, and that gives me how many days it took for it to get to closing. What does it take now to get from contract to closing on a normal transaction? 30 days, 45 days? Right. So the point is, the short sales take longer when a buyer could already be in their house. Again, the absorption rate is 175%, and the month supply is a 0.6 month supply, less than 1. Strong seller's market. Now let's look at non-distressed in Pasco. Again, inventory went up 656 to 673, but year over year it's down by 70%, 70.2%, almost 1,600 less listings in Pasco this year than there were last year. While sales went up by 33%. So 1,427 in April, as opposed to 1,069 last April. And again, 100% of list price. That one means 100% of list price is what those 1,427 sold for on average. The absorption rate is 212%. The month supply, half a month supply of inventory. Crazy, crazy, crazy. And next page we see, again, inventory went up a little bit. Pendings went up. But this is, about 3 times more pendings in Pasco. In Pinellas, it's a little bit above 2 times. In Pasco, it's a little bit above 3 times. Okay. Let's get to Hillsborough. Wow. Only 10 active. I never thought percent of list price on average. So they sold above list price on average. 170%. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you cut out a little bit. We can hear you now.
Good, thank you. Because it said my internet was unstable for some reason. I know that I am, but I didn't know my internet was.
I had to unmute myself so you could hear me cracking up at your jokes, Gary.
Okay. That's all right. Nikki's heard my jokes so many times that I'm used to not hearing anything after my jokes. So, but I miss being live because at least you laugh a little bit. All right, short sales in REOs in Hillsborough. Good, we just did this. Let's look at short sales. 10 actives, 9 sold, 90 days from contract to closing, a 1.1 month supply of inventory. All right, non-distressed. And this is where most of our information is. Next page. Thanks. Even in Hillsborough, 1,337 active listings, down by over 3,000 listings. Again, almost a 70% drop in active inventory, while sales went up by 45.3%, 863 sales. And again, in Hillsborough, 100% of list price, 2,766 properties average selling at 100% of list price. This is data you can show your buyer clients when you're in a consultation to help them understand that this is where properties are selling. Don't come in and try to steal a property because most likely it's not going to happen.
Gary, when you're pulling your numbers, are you doing 0 to 30 days on active?
I'm just searching all actives in the county. I'm searching all actives in the county. I'm not putting any criteria on number of days. I'm just searching all actives in the county. Searching all pendings for the last 180 days in the county. And I'm searching all solds for the previous month. From like April 1st to April 30th. That's how I'm searching. Okay. Again, a half month supply of inventory. The sellers are in the driver's seat. And that's the ball game that we're in right now. All three counties, non-distressed properties sold at 100% of list price on average. Even Derek Jeter sold his $22.5 million mansion last month. Wow, that's pretty cool. Again, inventory is up in Hillsborough from 1284 to 1366. Look at the number of pending properties in Hillsborough. 4,366. I didn't do the math, but it's almost 4 times. No, it's not. It's above 2.5, I think. And again, sold properties. It's an unbelievable opportunity and an unbelievable time. Okay, let's look at the next page. I want to just make a couple of points. We're gonna just show this page again. See 1778 to 1794. Every month, pretty much for the last number of years, has been a record-breaking new month in low inventory. But March to April went up from 1778 to 1794. Year over year, there's a 63% drop when you include all inventory, distressed, non-distressed, auction. Okay. You scroll down and see the number of sales. Again, April and May, the number of sales in Pinellas were down dramatically because of COVID. Probably June too. But sales are up by 74.8% year over year from 1445 to 2526. That's the most sales in April ever. You see that by a significant amount. Any questions on that? Everybody with me? Am I going too fast?
Hi, Gary.
Yes.
Hi, it's Melissa DiMaria, and I'm sorry I'm not on video. I'm actually in my car driving home from Palm Harbor.
No worries.
But I have a question, not particularly wrapped around days on market or inventory, but more average sale price. So there's a lot of conversation about, our prices are increasing at such a rapid pace. Like, where were we in like 04, 05, before the market started turning?
I would be.
Where's
guessing.
our average price back then? Any guesses?
I would be completely guessing, but I mean, I know that in the last 3 or 4 years, the market's gone up in Florida in general, 10%, 10%, 10%, 7%. So that's just the last 4 or 5 years. Okay, so a buyer that decided they were going to wait, on that $250,000, $300,000 house they were going to buy, 4 years later, that $300,000 house, is worth $450,000.
Right, without a doubt. But I guess my question is, and I can, I have to go back and look at this too, is that, are we at the highest average sale price ever here?
I believe I don't know whether we are or not. I have to really go back to see what happened in 2005, 2006, 2007.
Right. Okay.
And I think we could be, but I think interest rates being as low as they are make it less painful.
Right. No, 100%. 100%.
That's why I think That's why I think if interest rates rise like they did a few years ago, well, and you can see, look at this, scroll up for a second, Tamara. And where is the inventory the highest on this sheet? The end of 2018, the beginning of 2019.
Right.
That's when inventory was 5%. That's when interest rates were 5%.
Right. Yeah. And I'm driving. I can't see that, but yeah.
Sorry, I understand.
Yeah, no, you're good. You're good. But okay, yeah, because that's just a question I think that everybody's talking about, right? Have we reached that point? But to your point earlier, right, their appreciation is still being expected. So I did hear that part.
Yes, appreciation
Melissa,
will continue as long as sellers are in the driving position and appraisers will validate it and buyers will pay the price. But at some point, the buyers will be willing to pay the price like they did a little bit at the end of 2018.
Agreed.
And that's when inventory will start to increase and the market will balance off a little bit.
Right.
But be careful what you wish for, because just like the best, month supply of inventory means a couple of things. It also means how many active listings you have to have in order to sell one every month.
Right.
So if you have a 1 month supply of inventory, all you need is one listing to sell one every month. If your goal is to sell 5 every month, all you need is 5 listings to sell 5 every month, right?
Right.
But if the market goes to a 10-month supply of inventory, how many listings do you need to carry every month to sell one?
Melissa, Florida Realtors may have some data on that. I was looking on their website. I can only see it back to 2017, but they might have some older data in their archives.
I'm looking at, for our market center, our multi-year trends shows that our average price here in Tampa is $362, and that is the highest it's been in the last 10 years.
Yeah, there you go.
I was going to suggest
right,
over
but I wonder
time.
where it was in 2005. Yeah.
Well, we need to look at older multi-year trend reports if we can find them historically, and that would be able to show us 10 years. Remember, the multi-year trend report just shows 10 years. And if we go, if we can get a hold of 2010, we will be able to see from 2000 to 2010 to see if this is the highest.
Right.
I think that would be an interesting number to have. But okay, thank you.
Okay, next page. I have just a couple more things I want to share with you. Sorry, we're going a little over time. If you look at these numbers and you check the month supply of inventory and all these price points, 900,000 to 999 is a 1 month supply of inventory, and everything else is less than a 1 month supply of inventory. That's another thing I've never seen before in my life. Even if you did the calculations on over $1 million, that's a 1.5 month supply of inventory for properties over $1 million. Pretty amazing. Okay. All right. It's 2 o'clock. I got to run. I'm sorry. I got another commitment, so forgive me. I did cover everything that I wanted to, except for the last 2 pages. And let me just do that really quickly. Jim Rohn, I used to say things cost too much. Then my teacher straightened me out on that by saying the problem isn't that things cost too much. The problem is that you can't afford it. That's when I finally stood that the problem wasn't it. The problem was me. The next thing I'd like to share with you is this from one of our coaches that we work with called Dan Sullivan. He says a free day should be free. In other words, a day off should be a day off. I know my days off were the days I went to the office with my jeans on. But he says, here's some questions. Do you always need to be connected with your mobile device? If the answer is yes, look at the graph. Drop everything, plan a holiday immediately. The answer is no. Do you believe your business can't run without you? The answer is yes. Drop everything and plan a holiday immediately. I like this guy. Is your idea of relaxation catching up on work on the weekend? Yes. Again, where does it lead? Do you believe that taking more free days means less income? Yes. Drop everything and take a holiday. No. Get a holiday into your schedule and protect that time. Do you take your laptop with you to your cottage or on your vacation? Yes. He believed a free day was complete detachment from everything that was going on. So my question to you is, have you ever had a free day since you've been in real estate? And are you willing to have a free day? And make sure you block time for a free day. I love Brian Buffini because he used to teach us and tell us that he always took Sundays off to rest and recover. And any offers that came in, he waited till Monday to present. But he was always able to tell which agents were burnt out and told, and which ones weren't negotiating as well as they could because they were just tired. So take care of yourselves. You're your own greatest asset. I love you all. Thank you for your time. I appreciate you all. Have a great month.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Gary.
Thanks, Gary.
Thank you, Gary.